Hello everyone, so myself Rishita Singh. I'm currently a second year MBBS student at a government medical college. So I'll be starting with nerve physiology and I'll be doing it from Ganong. So the main purpose of these videos would be to have a constant reading of standard textbooks which we often neglect, and as you would be coming towards the end of your first year, you will realize that तुम ऐसा रट्टा मारने वाला चीज़ें पढ़ोगे. So to avoid that, little by little, we'll be doing standard textbooks. This is of Ganong, okay? So yeah, chapter excitable tissue nerve. This nerve physiology will be divided into 4 parts. So let's begin without any further bakwas. So yeah, excitable tissue nerve. Now first of all, what is a nerve? So nerve, it is a compact bundle of axons which is located outside the CNS. Very important is nerve is located outside the CNS. Any segment of axon, okay? First of all, what is nerve? Nerve is a bundle of axons, okay? Not the cell body. Nerve is just the axon which is located outside the CNS. So any axon ka bundle present inside the CNS, you won't call it nerve, you would be calling it tracts, which you will be learning further, ascending tracts, descending tracts, okay? So important point, nerve axon ka bundle hai, not the cell body, located outside the CNS, means it is in the PNS. The 2 types of nerves which you know, cranial and spinal, okay? So yeah, and basic anatomy of nerve is, this is a single nerve, okay, nerve fiber. A single nerve fiber will be covered by an endoneurium. Then many such nerve fibers will accumulate. They'll form a bundle. That bundle of many nerve fibers is called as a fascicle, and that fascicle will be basically a fasciculus, and many such are called as fascicles. Those will be covered by perineurium, and many such fascicles will accumulate, and that whole thing will be covered by epineurium. So it is endo, peri, epi. Endoneurium, single nerve fiber. Perineurium for one fascicle, and epineurium for many fascicles, okay? So yeah, hope you got the basic idea. Now I'll be reading each line to line so that we don't miss any point. Then like what would be the point of doing standard textbooks if you're missing any point? So yeah, intro. The basic working unit of the central and the peripheral nervous system is the nerve cell or the neuron. Neurons are identified as excitable cells because they have the ability to be electrically excited, resulting in the generation of action potentials. Other examples of excitable cells are skeletal, smooth and cardiac muscle cells, and secretory cells of the pancreas. Okay, so CNS और PNS का basic working unit is neuron. You got that. उसके बाद में और कौन से excitable cells you are seeing is skeletal, smooth, cardiac and secretory cells of the pancreas. See, what do you mean by excitable cell is electrical, chemical या mechanical. ये तीनों में से कोई भी एक stimulus आया तो it will be excited. So skeletal muscle, it's neurogenic. You know that, right? Because it needs a stimulus. Smooth muscle is myogenic. It is autonomic. And cardiac can be myon neuro. And secretory cells of the pancreas. Now how are these cells also excitable? Because what happens is in diabetes mellitus is the beta cells of these pancreas don't function properly. So that's why you get diabetes mellitus. So even the secretory cells of the pancreas are excitable cells. Okay, then neurons come in many different shapes and sizes, but these share features that impart an ability to receive, process, and okay, from external and internal sources to initiate most physiological behaviors. Okay. Now, neuron. You see this structure of the neuron. Okay, this is the structure of the neuron. This is a nucleus which is present in the cell body. Cell body is also known as soma. It is also known as perikaryon. Then before the formation of the initial segment of the axon, there's one thickened part of the cell body that's called as the axon hillock, and then there is the initial segment of the axon. Then you will see the axon, and then you will see terminal buttons or botons. Okay. So yeah, we'll read OB. So neuron, basic working unit of the nervous system, shows the basic components of a neuron for the prototypical spinal motor neuron. Cell body soma contains the nucleus. Okay. The cell body will contain the nucleus. There is a metabolic center of the neuron and stores the hereditary material DNA. Neurons have several processes called dendrites. This, I don't think anyone has any doubt in this. Extend outward from the cell body and arborize extensively. Arborize extensively means they spread out like a branch, like branches of a tree. They spread out to aid their role in receiving incoming signals, processing the information, and then transmitting the information to the soma of the neuron. The dendrites, they'll branch out, they'll collect the information, they'll pass it to the body. A typical neuron also has a long fibrous axon that originates from a thickened area of the cell body. So what is axon hillock? Axon hillock is a part of the cell body. Axon hillock is a part of the cell body, not of the axon. Okay. Originates from a thickened area axon. The first portion of the axon is called the initial segment. The first portion of the axon is not the axon hillock. It is the initial segment. This is very minor. Such questions won't be asked, but you never know, no? It's important to pay attention to these little things as well. The first portion of the axon is called the initial segment. The axon divides into presynaptic terminal, each ending in a number of synaptic nerves that are called as terminal buttons or botons. They contain granules or vesicles in which the synaptic transmitters released by the nerves are stored. Based on the number of processes that emerge from the cell body, neurons can be classified in the unipolar, bipolar, pseudounipolar, or multipolar. So what they have said is, initial segment is the first part of the axon. Axon will divide into these terminals, the presynaptic terminals, which again will be terminating into terminal buttons or botons. Okay. Motor neuron है with a myelinated axon. Motor neuron is composed of cell body. ठीक है. The first portion of the axon is called the initial segment. Nodes of Ranvier myelin sheath won't be present. Done. Now, types of neurons. Okay, so types of neurons are unipolar, bipolar, pseudounipolar, and multipolar. Pseudounipolar is a subdivision of bipolar, not unipolar. Okay, pay attention. So, बस examples याद रखो. Unipolar, it is present in invertebrates and it is present only in the mesencephalic nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. Further, you will understand that trigeminal nerve के spinal nucleus होता है, mesencephalic nucleus होता है. तो mesencephalic nucleus का trigeminal nerve का उसमें there is unipolar. Now what is unipolar? It will be having a single pole which will function as both the axon as well as the dendrite. Then you will have the bipolar cell of the retina. Bipolar means having two poles. That does not mean that it will have two dendrites, okay? It will be having one dendrite and one axon. So yeah, bipolar cells. Bipolar present where? It is present in the retina, sensory ganglia of the cochlear and the vestibular nerves, and the olfactory epithelium. Okay, so bipolar is in the retina, olfactory epithelium, and sensory ganglia of cochlear and vestibular nerves. Next is pseudounipolar. Pseudounipolar is a subtype of subdivision of bipolar, not unipolar, because what you see is pseudounipolar mein there is a cell body, there is a central axon which will be divided into two axon terminals. Okay, so yeah, and there is this peripheral axon to the skin and muscle. But what is important is in pseudounipolar you will be having a central axon which will be dividing into again two axons. Present in the ganglion cell of the dorsal root. Next we have is multipolar. Three types. Multipolar may basically see in all types of neurons there will only be one axon. Number of dendrites may vary. The axon will always be one. So motor neurons, multipolar cells present in motor neurons. it is in the motor neuron of the spinal cord. तो कोई भी अगर मोटर न्यूरॉन लिख दिया ना तो मल्टीपोलर करके आना. नाउ ऐसा क्वेश्चन आ सकता है कि अपाइकल डेंड्राइट इज द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक ऑफ विच सेल. Has been asked in, not previously, but it has been asked in some modules. Okay, so it is in the pyramidal cell of hippocampus. Apical dendrite is the characteristic of which cell? It is the characteristic of pyramidal cell of hippocampus. And Purkinje cell of cerebellum, you can see kitta branches. Okay, so some of the types of neurons in the mammalian nervous system. Unipolar neurons have one process with different segments serving as receptive surfaces and releasing terminals. Bipolar neurons have two specialized processes, a dendrite that carries information to the cell and an axon that transmits. ठीक है. Next, in this we'll be doing till resting membrane potential. Okay, yeah, so I'll see RMP and AP I'll do in one video, I feel. Okay, I'll see. From a functional point of view, now this is very important. It's been asked, okay? Questions have been asked previously in them hands, okay? From a functional point of view, neurons will generally have 4 important zones, okay? ध्यान से, okay? Functional point of view से neurons में 4 important zones हैं. 4 important zones are first, you can call it the receptor zone or the dendritic zone. Okay, receptor zone or the dendritic zone, where multiple local potential changes are generated. Okay, see, now before that you should know what is local potential and what is propagative potential. So local potential is that, suppose मैचस्टिक को यू लाइटेड अ मैचस्टिक एंड उसके आगे फर्दर मैचस्टिक्स नहीं है, दिस इज लॉट ऑफ स्पेस, तो वो ज़्यादा प्रोपोगेट नहीं होएगा, उधर ही पे ख़त्म हो जाएगा. दैट इज़ लोकल पोटेंशियल, इट डज नॉट प्रोपोगेट. व्हाट इज़ एक्शन पोटेंशियल या प्रोपोगेटिव पोटेंशियल, बोथ आर सेम. उसमें देयर इज अ होल लाइन ऑफ मैचस्टिक्स, तो एक को जलाया, सो देन फर्दर द नेक्स्ट वन विल ऑल्सो बी लाइटेड अप. ऐसे द एक्शन पोटेंशियल विल स्प्रेड. So that is propagative potential. So dendritic zone जो है वहाँ पे से dendrites are spreading out. That is where the multiple local potential changes are generated. Okay. And axonal segment का first part is the initial segment. So initial segment में action potentials are generated. एक्शन पोटेंशियल भी कह सकते हो या प्रोपोगेटिव पोटेंशियल भी कह सकते हो. लोकल पोटेंशियल इज ऑल्सो नोन एज इलेक्ट्रोटोनिक ग्रेडेड पोटेंशियल. ओके, सो 2 जोन समझा. डेंड्राइटिक जोन है, यहाँ पे लोकल पोटेंशियल चेंजेस विल बी जनरेटेड, एंड साइट वेयर प्रोपोगेटेड एक्शन potentials are generated is the initial segment in the spinal motor neurons. Next, then there is an axonal process that will transmit the propagated impulses to the nerve endings, and the fourth is the nerve endings, where the action potential will cause the release of synaptic transmitters. This is the presynaptic neuron. तो terminal part पे आ गया. Wait, this is the presynaptic neuron. यहाँ पे एक postsynaptic होगा जिसका, sorry for the diagram, dendrite से निकलेगा. तो यहाँ पे terminal वाला will release the neurotransmitters. Okay, so did you get 4 important question? Okay, so okay, local potential will be at the dendritic zone. Local potential या graded, I told you graded electrotonic potential या graded electrogenesis, same thing. So dendrite पे local potential. Initial segment, question asked was axon hillock plus initial segment. The question asked was कि where is the generation of action potentials? So the answer is the initial segment of the axon and the axon hillock, okay, as well. dendrite is for local potential and initial segment plus axon hillock is for propagative action potential. Transmission is through the axonal process and release of synaptic transmitters is through nerve endings. Got it? Then now important mnemonic is PSM, MSO. PSM पेरिफेरल न्यूरल सिस्टम में जो माइलिन फॉर्मेशन होता है इट इज डन बाय योर श्वान सेल्स, whereas in your CMO सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम में जो माइलिन फॉर्मेशन होता है दैट इज बाय ओलिगोडेंड्रोसाइट्स. ओके, सो पेरिफेरल में इट इज श्वान सेल and central में it is oligodendrocytes. Axons of many neurons will acquire a myelin sheath. Myelin sheath. What is myelin sheath? The protein lipid complex. It is wrapped around the axon in the PNS. Why PNS लिखा है? क्योंकि nerve is in the PNS. In CNS you will call it as tracts. Okay. Initial part of the video only I have told this. The peripheral nervous system. Myelin forms when a Schwann cell will wrap its membrane around an axon. How many times? It is up to 100 times. The myelin sheath will envelop the axon except the node of Ranvier. Nodes of Ranvier होंगे. Nodes of Ranvier की thickness is 1 micrometer. Periodic 1 micrometer gaps, but the axon is unmyelinated. The insulating function of myelin and its role in axonal condition. ठीक है. अब आते हैं हम एक्साइटेशन एंड कंडक्शन. तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल रिमेंबर कि जो नर्व्स है ना दे आर नॉट मियर टेलीफोन वायर्स की मतलब यहाँ से इन्फो गया और वो एंड में जाके पहुँच रहा है. नो, दीज आर लाइक द कंडक्शन ऑफ एन इम्पल्स इज अ वेरी एक्टिव प्रोसेस. इट्स नॉट अ पैसिव प्रोसेस. एट ईच पॉइंट इन द एक्सॉन देयर विल बी potential changes. So these are not mere telephone wires. They transmit impulse actively at each and every point. Excitation and conduction. A hallmark of nerve cells is their excitable membrane. Neurons will respond to electrical, chemical or mechanical stimulus. Electrical stimulus like direct electric current दे दिया या potential changes. Chemical is due to neurotransmitters like acetylcholine, glutamate, and mechanical is pressure stimulus. Okay, pressure stimulus. Okay, so in सबको nerves will respond by producing दो टाइप के potentials. As I have told, local is unpropagated क्योंकि उसके आगे कुछ है तो वो distance limited है, but propagated potentials are action potential. तो effect नहीं changes ना, ठीक है. Depending on that location, okay, location कहाँ पे वो stimulus transmit हो रहा है. The non-propagated potentials. Non-propagated potentials further 3 types. Synaptic generator and जो मैंने बोला था local electrotonic. So non-propagative के 3 types हो रहे हैं. Synaptic generator and electrotonic. Synaptic will be present at the synapse. Generator potential is when प्रेशर या स्किन को टच किया तो वो जनरेटर पोटेंशियल है. फिर जनरेटर इट विल इनिशिएट द स्टिमुलस. एंड इलेक्ट्रोटोनिक इज एक्सॉन में कहीं पे भी लोकल पोटेंशियल कहाँ पे जनरेट हो रहा है. इट विल बी जनरेटेड द डेंड्राइट. ओके, तो वैसा है थोड़े रेंज तक जा सकता है ना वो एक्सॉन में भी, तो वो है इलेक्ट्रोटोनिक पोटेंशियल. सो डिपेंडिंग ऑन द लोकेशन नॉन प्रोपोगेटिव आर ऑफ 3 टाइप्स. साइनेप्टिक, generator, electrotonic. The propagated action potentials which are not local. Propagative मतलब local नहीं है, and propagative का दूसरा नाम है action potential, are the primary electrical responses of the neuron, the main form of communication with the nervous system. Why propagative action potentials are the primary? Because local has a limiting thing which is the distance. Local will not flow through the distance. Local एक मैचस्टिक जलाया, उसके आगे मैचस्टिक ही नहीं तो वो उधर ही स्टॉप हो गया. प्रोपोगेटिव के केसेस में लाइन से मैचस्टिक्स हैं तो उसको डिस्टेंस लिमिट नहीं कर रहा है. तो दैट इज़ वाई propagated action potentials are the primary electrical responses of the neuron, the main form of communication within the nervous system. The electrical events in neurons are rapid, measured in milliseconds, and potential changes are small, measured in millivolts. The impulse is normally transmitted along the axon to its termination. Conduction is an active, which I had said, they are not like telephone wires. It's an active process. Every point there is something happening along the axon to its termination. Conduction is an active, self-propagating process, and the impulse moves along the nerve at a constant amplitude and velocity. The process is often compared to what happens when a match is applied to one end of the trail of gunpowder. Okay, the example which I had told. So यहाँ तक ध्यान देते हैं. Next video, I'll see कि resting membrane potential and action potential करेंगे.